All right, y'all. Making my first go at doing a live video here. It is Thursday evening, January 4th, and I'm here at home. My wife is out right now, and normally I would be out training on a Thursday night, but I had some oral surgery this morning, which was a lot of fun, and I'm supposed to be taking it easy. So we got stuff to talk about. Let's go ahead and do it. So yeah, like I said, first time live. I am not yet sure. There's comments. Okay. If anybody pops in, I can see your comment. I did not put this out on any social media anywhere. So if any of you guys happen to follow my channel and get notifications, jump in if you're not in the middle of something. If not, I'm just going to roll. I've got a little check off list here of things I'd like to talk about. And we'll see what happens. Feel free to let me know later on after it's uploaded if the audio is good or bad. I'm just running off of laptop audio. And I'm talking funny because I have had my face messed with today. So, when I decide to do things, I just do them. Sometimes minimal prep work. So, first week of January, we have had, it always makes sense to start with the weather. We have been above freezing during the day, relatively mild. We're still getting below freezing overnight, but not really, really cold, like mid-20s. So, annoying, but not like make things difficult cold in most cases. And it is nice that we typically do get above freezing during the day. And that's just made things a lot easier. It's let me get out and do stuff around the farm and not feel all cooped up, which is the worst. So we'll do a sheep update. If you pull up my YouTube videos and scoot back a week or two, you'll find a pretty decent video of what the sheep are doing right now in their wintertime paddock. But just to kind of cap that off real quick, I put them in an area that was overgrown with ivy, other kinds of vines, privet, some brambles, old downed wood. It was just kind of, not a scenic spot by any means. And I'm going to be able to leave them in there for the winter because that is a spot that I'm not going to graze in the summertime. My only goal, not really my only, but one of my main goals for that spot is to kind of clean out a lot of the overgrowth. This kind of sits between my parents' house and my brother's house. And my dad especially mentioned that he would like to have overgrowth pushed back at least 100 feet away from the house as a, fire safety measure. So I'm letting the sheep work on the underbrush. And as they trample that and work on that, I get in there with the saw and cut stuff down. And I cut the privet. I usually go for the privet first because they love it and they'll eat it. And I'm talking about privet that's 20 feet tall. So I cut that down, let them clean it off. And then eventually I just drag those branches out. And depending upon how spry I'm feeling that day, I either just take it down to the brush dump spot down the driveway a short bit, or I may cut some of it into, small logs, little like 8-inch logs, and set them aside for biochar. It kind of just depends on what's up that day. So they will probably be in there. I mean, they'll definitely be in there all this month. They are eating hay. We had a hay delivery yesterday and we got a big round roll in there for them. I built a little corral out of hog panel to kind of support the roll and also keep them from basically wasting it. It makes them have to eat a little bit slower and a little bit more deliberately instead of ripping out big chunks and it just spreading everywhere. And it's really good to try to feed your sheep up high and off the ground. And that goes for the donkey too. So I actually made a hanging feeder for her so she could eat without competition from the sheep. And she can also easily get to this bale now. And, she can eat up high. Sheep can eat down low to the middle. And everybody's happy. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see how long it takes them to go through it. I can't remember if I mentioned before, but we have 1 donkey, 10 ewes, and 1 ram. So those are the numbers as they stand. And last I counted, about 5 or 6 of these ewes look really pregnant. So when I was talking to Jeff, the sheep daddy, as it were, who brought the hay the other day, he pointed out one that he said she almost always has twins. So they've had these sheep for a while, and they just moved them around to different properties, and right now they're on ours. And he said there's one that definitely almost always has twins. And he also said that they like to wait until the coldest, wettest, messiest, windiest night to have their lambs. So I've been warned. So that's what's up with the sheep. I'm really glad I did it. Even though we've had some tough spots, we had some issues through the summer with losses due to Barbara poleworm. Just kind of figuring out my system of moving them and setting up fence and making sure I could, fit it into my schedule with everything else. I'm really glad I did it, and I plan to keep doing it. And frankly, I can't imagine this place now without some kind of ruminant doing its thing, being rotated across the land. For the garden, cool stuff going on in the garden. I threw some photos up on the Facebook pages a couple of days back around a day or two before Christmas. One of my friends hollered at me who works at a nursery, and she said, "Hey, we got like tons of flats of fall and winter vegetables that can't be sold and are going to get thrown away. I'm trying to get them rehomed." And, she offered them up as, sheep food, which I'm sure they would have enjoyed. But I didn't tell the sheep that I ended up putting all that in the garden instead, because I think I can get these through the winter and have a harvest. So just off the top of my head, there was kohlrabi, multiple varieties of everything, cabbage, beets, carrots, lots of Brussels sprouts, which I love. Several lettuces. I put them in little grow tents, and I feel like there was something else maybe, but just all of your, a bunch of different kinds of brassicas and whatnot. And so I put them all in the garden, and I dug them in just a little deeper than normal, because some of them had gotten so big they were rooting themselves into their neighboring cell in the trays. So I dug them in real deep, and then gave them a really good dose of leaf mulch, of which I have an ample amount. So I'm just going to keep them covered with leaves. And if they start to blow off, or, if they start breaking down real quick, I'm just going to cover them with a little more leaves through the winter and see how they do. But the plants are so big, I kind of feel like at this point, they're probably, pretty good to go, unless we just have like really sustained single digits or something. So I figure either way, we win. We've got stuff we can harvest right now. If we wanted, we can harvest all kinds of cabbage leaf, and there's some little broccoli heads and stuff. And I've been harvesting on the lettuce. And if it does get nuked by cold weather, then, it's just going to rot, and it's just going to feed the soil and feed the worms. So, in exchange for 2 hours of labor of putting all that stuff in the ground and a visit with my friend over at the nursery, I'm good with it. I've ordered fodder trees. If you guys need fodder trees, you need to go over to rareplantstore.com. That's Nick Ferguson's website. From what I can tell, the guy has been able to seriously scale up his production. Fodder trees help you create another source of regenerative food for your livestock. You can do this for sheep, goats, rabbits, cattle, even some of the stuff, even to some extent, you can feed the chicken and quail. And he's got really good instructional videos on there, how to do everything. I got one of the bigger packages because I've got a big site that we're going to plant. So this will be I don't quite know my links yet. I got to go back and see what I want to do for spacing. But basically, I have this western field that I've run the sheep through once. And it's on a south-facing slope, and there's a lot of places where it's just bare. It's just bare soil. And so far, everything I have tried has not fixed that all that well. Now, like I said, I've only had the sheep on it once for about 3 weeks. I do have the option to overseed it, and I may still do that. But what I really want to do is take a portion of that and turn it into fodder tree production, because it's big and open. It's close. I mean, it's practically, I'd call it my zone 2. So zone 1 being closest to you, zone 2 being second closest. My brother and I can dig swales. We can plant those trees. And then I have the option to continue to propagate from them and plant more. And it may just make more sense to use the bulk of that field for fodder tree production versus simply just grazing. And I can fence them out of it too. I can graze a portion of it, and I can fence them out so they're not eating the trees, and I don't want them to eat the trees. But for those of you who are not familiar with fodder trees, this is basically a way of cutting a tree back, known as coppicing or pollarding, depending upon what height you cut it off at, so that it flushes with new growth from beneath the cut. And you can, if you do it at the right time, you will have practically an endless amount of food. And these are things you can make silage with this. If you look up tree hay, that's kind of the old school term for it. Before we had grain silos and big ag, this is one of the ways a lot of people fed their animals through the winter, was to create silage. And you can do it under tarps. There's endless ways of doing it. So that's kind of going to be my next step. And I should mention where this field is I have water. I can easily get water to it from a pressurized line. And if I need to, I have structures nearby where I can fill big water tanks and gravity feed. So either way, I can take care of those trees. Swales make a big difference in terms of capturing and holding water for that root system. So I'm looking forward to doing that. I've got my order reserved. I know Nick ships when planting time is appropriate for your zip code. So I don't know for certain, but that could be, late February, early March. These are going to be bare root trees. It's going to be super simple. So much quicker to plant them than doing stuff that's been potted. And the prices are phenomenal compared to what you pay anywhere else. rareplantstore.com is the way to go. And if you haven't, go over there and hopefully he's still got some in stock, because I know they go fast. My crazy carbon adventure continues. I made a leaf friend. Actually, a guy found me who does leaf pickup with one of the big vacuum trucks. And over the course of the fall, up till about the week before Christmas, he was bringing leaves up 2 or 3 times a week. And so I have wound up with probably, I would say it's about 12 cubic yards, maybe a little bit more, because they're kind of already starting to kind of compress. So his vacuum has a shredder with it, so it kind of compacts things. And a couple of times my brother has come up with the skid steer and kind of neatened up the pile and gotten it into one large pile so that things will cook down. So I am very happy about that carbon source. I'll be able to use that to make compost for here, compost for others, soil amendments, raised bed amendments. And then today we had the guys who do the cleanup, the tree cleanup for the utilities, a tree service. So we have, I don't know how many feet, but a lot of power line that comes up from the road, up through the pastures, past 2 houses, to my brother's house, to my dad's house. And, every so often that stuff just has to be trimmed back. So they brought up, and it's the same company all the time. And they kind of know us because Dad always goes out and chats with them and, is friendly and everything. And they know that they can bring the wood chips up here. So they dumped off one load that I would say is about 10 or 12 yards, as far as I can tell. There's some hardwood in there. It's a lot of pine, but I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. It's all good. It all gets the job done. And so I will I've got that other form of carbon. And then I also have Leaf Mountain, also known as Trash Bag Mountain. And through the fall, up until a couple of weeks ago, I had just posted on just a couple of message boards locally on Nextdoor and on Facebook that if you had your leaves bagged and at the curb, I would pick them up. And I wasn't really charging people. I just fit it in when I could. You know, a couple of people ended up paying me as like a tip, which was super nice. But I was able to pick up a lot of leaves. It is a mountain. And it's one of those things where I'm glad I'm up here where there's no rules, because this is something I could not have gotten away with in the city. I simply wouldn't have had a space. It's probably I'd say it's close to like a 20 by 30 foot space stacked about 8 feet tall. I tried to do them kind of like in a pyramid, but they're leaves, so they didn't really cooperate entirely. And by the time I was getting the last bags on there, I was doing like this crazy swinging kind of shot put maneuver. And the last few bags were heavy from being in the rain. So I'm just going to let those cook in the bags. I think I'll actually leave them alone through the summer and let them cook way down and go from there. So all that's going on up at my materials processing area. I am super happy about that. I moved a little wood stove that I had, a little camp wood stove. And I've been doing small batches of biochar, kind of just experimenting with it with a couple of different pipe setups and trying to really tamp the air down and get that right blend of oxygen mix so that I'm making char and not ash. And I think ultimately I probably want to do biochar in some kind of pit. So I'm thinking about where I want the pit, how I want it dug. And because we are clay and because we hold so much water in this clay, especially as you dig down really deep, I will probably need to put in some kind of sort of a French drain type of thing. And I've got corrugated pipe all over the place. So we'll have to put something in so that the water can't just sit there, because we will have water in the spring that will just sit for weeks. And I need to be able to deal with that. Naturally, I'm going to try to make that fit together with another system, which is why I haven't just started digging. I want to make everything flow together, which means I'm going to wait and think on it. And on the topic of thinking about things, and I would love to hear back from you guys on this, do you have all your best thoughts come to you about like your homestead and systems and things like that as you're starting to go to sleep? I've been this way for years. I was like this when we had our place in the city. I'd be dozing off, and then I would suddenly have the best idea how to make something work better, how to use a particular space more efficiently, a process, anything like that. Something I wanted to grow in different ways I could use it. And it's funny because I try to kind of like retain it. I don't really want to get up and write it down, although I do that sometimes. So I'm just trying to teach my brain to like, okay, file that information. So when I'm in my waking state, then I can put it in my notebook. So the biochar has been the latest system that I'm letting ruminate in that beginnings of the sleepy state. The food forest is coming along great. I got on a Spur a little bit before Christmas where we had really nice weather, and I had a bunch of cardboard stashed up. So I laid more cardboard, laid more wood chip down to keep making the grass go away. And I also added a sweet cherry tree, a sour cherry tree, both of which are self-pollinated. And I added 4 gooseberries. 2 went into the swale, and then I kind of put 1 on 2 different corners. I also added 2 kind of to the further edge baby plum trees that came from Scott with Scott runs Thriving the Future podcast, and you should check that out. He's a great dude. We've sent some stuff back and forth to each other in the mail, and they've got a Telegram group and whatnot, and they're just they're just right on. If you're doing living free in Tennessee and TSP and all that, Thrive in the Future is going to fit right in on those kind of topics and approaches. So that's the idea of one of the kind of the big sweeping things we're doing up here is getting it into a state of being a demonstration site. So I am only in, 21. We are entering the 4th year of living here. I'm really only about 2.5 years in on actual infrastructure, because the first winter and part of the spring was simply getting the workshop in, getting the cabin in, and then food stuff started to come after that. So I'm kind of happy with how much we've gotten done. I mean, we've got a little pond and creek system that a bunch of friends helped us dig out and make. We've got all kinds of, just all the gardens are doing great. The food forest, that's when we do tours up here, that's usually what I start with. I start with the gardens and the food forest and kind of describe how I'm getting all these things to work together, and, just encouraging people to get out there and plant stuff and not get too bogged down in the details early. I think it was maybe a video that David the Good put out, and he was like, just get out there and plant stuff. Don't fret too much over what you're planting where, especially early on, if it's something really small and you can observe it for a year and then say, hey, this is going to get too big. I need to transplant this when this is dormant. It's not a big deal. I mean, it's not the most efficient thing in the world, but we're always observing and interacting. So don't sweat that too much. Don't plant a crepe myrtle 2 feet off of your house's foundation. Trust me on that. Not because we've done it, but because I've been to a lot of houses where there are crepe myrtles or river birch that are pushing into a foundation because they were planted way too close. So yeah, I do think about how big things get, but just about everything that we put in our food forest, they're pretty easy to propagate, especially, if you get into grafting, you're really wearing it out. But even just stuff you learn to propagate from cuttings. If you have to dig something and transplant it and take some cuttings and prune it and root them, it's all learning. It's all good. So don't overthink it. And yes, you've got people like me you can holler at and get some help. And I like providing help, but I like people to empower themselves even more. So upcoming for the year, this is what we're looking at doing up here. I have not relayed this to all my customers yet. And by customers, I mean people who I've been doing property maintenance for. So folks, if you've consulted with me, I'm not going anywhere. In fact, I'm making it better so I can do more for you. I decided that 2023 was going to be the last year I was doing scheduled property maintenance. So that meant no more mowing jobs, the weed eating, all that kind of stuff where I was going out to a place weekly or bi-weekly. I'm going to communicate with those customers, which was basically 2 people and a small neighborhood. I'm going to communicate with them this month that I am no longer offering those services. I'm going to keep myself available for new installations and rehab jobs. But in terms of throwing mowing equipment on a trailer and going out 2 or 3 days a week, I'm not doing it anymore. I started, that's what got me funded in 2020. And I did it 2020 full-time, 2021 full-time. I cut it back. No, I did it full-time in 2022. I cut it back in 2022. I'm trying to remember here. I kind of kept scaling it back. And then I got to where I kept a neighborhood and a couple of people who were basically because they're close, because they're on my end of town. So that was kind of, it wasn't really a hard decision to make, but it was kind of a weird decision because it's a little bit hard to walk away from more or less guaranteed cash flow. But I was looking at how I was using my time and how much energy it took. And I took a look at the wear and tear on the equipment, the miles on the Jeep, the trailer, fixing things, sharpening things. I'm still going to be using some of this equipment here on the farm, but it's, nowhere near what I was doing. I kind of looked at everything that I did to, all the maintenance on the mower, things like that. So So I'm going to communicate that soon. And I do have a service in mind. My brother and I know a guy, and he's got a good reputation. And I know he services those neighborhoods. So hopefully they'll be able to talk to him and get them squared away. I know it's not my responsibility to do that, but these people have been good to me. So I feel like that's the right thing to do. I don't like leaving people hanging. And I always try to communicate really well. I have built a reputation upon that. So I'm going to follow through there. So that means with that time freed up, we're going to be doing foraging classes here on the farm, probably at least 2 a month. If the demand is high enough and people want to come out here, I'll do 1 a week. We'll have to figure out, some people work weekends, some people don't. So there might be like a weekday class and like a weekend class. I might just stagger it. I might do, a Wednesday, Saturday, and then like a Thursday, Sunday, or something like that. But we'll figure that out as we go. I've got events that I know I'm going to do. I know I'll be at Self-Reliance Festival in March. We're going to do a foraging class out there. Hopefully we're going to make it a big one. We're still working out the details of that, but I have thrown that out there to the organizers. And there are, when I did that class in October, it was well attended. And the only thing I came back from it thinking was I wanted more than an hour, because I could just barely scratch the surface, literally, of what I wanted to show people in that hour. And it was really well received. And I had multiple conversations with folks off to the side after the fact. And but those 2 classes, I did them on both days, and I just like to have more than an hour. I think it's something I could easily fill 4 to 6 hours and actually get into some detail when it comes to foraging. We will continue to hold our meetings up here, our quarterly meetings. They are they continue to grow. The one in December was actually quite big. I think we had over 20 people between, people coming in. A lot of people will come in a little early, do a tour, hang out, visit, and then head on out. And then we kind of tend to have a second group that comes a little bit later. And the adjustment I'm going to make there is I'm going to basically just create a light agenda. So I will relay that via the mailing list. If you would like to get on there, go to strongrootsresources.com. There'll be a little pop-up at the bottom. You can put your mail-in address there, and you will get notified when I post stuff about classes and gatherings. The agenda is probably just going to be something fairly straightforward, like, between these hours we'll have a tour. At this time we will have, that's when we'll have some food and some fellowship. And then for the later half, maybe we'll do a demonstration if something like that is in demand. I just found that, when people kind of come in and out and they want to talk to me and Angel, and they want to know stuff and see things, my people energy can run out real quick, even though I try really hard to conserve it. So I think if I apply just a little bit of a schedule, that will help. And I think people appreciate too. Most of us like a little bit of coordination, I found. I mean, I'm an anarchist, but I don't like chaos. An event coming up soon is going to be on Friday. I think it's a Friday, but it's January 13th. I do have a note in the description. Hopefully that will port over when this video comes up. But if you do want to look it up on Facebook, it's called the Farmstead Friends Holiday Gathering. And that is put on by a lady named Sandy. And it's going to be in Lenoir City, Tennessee. I think we're doing it from either 4 to 6 or 4 to 8. But it'll be in the evening at the Bluebird Reserve venue. That is like a wedding and event venue out there. There's going to be drinks and snacks. There's going to be a hayride. And the main focus is that if you are homesteading on any scale on this end of the state, or if you think you maybe, if you're planning on moving here and you would like to come out, this is your opportunity to meet people who are doing similar things, who are going to be like-minded. so that we can exchange value with one another. Sandy, I got to talk to Sandy when they came out here. She came out here for our event in December. I got to talk with her just a little bit, and it sounds like she and I are really on the same page. Like, we just kind of we want more ways for people to connect. So we're not too worried about, the definition of homesteading. I mean, I started in the city. I developed out a little city lot that was super productive. But there were some people would be like, well, that's not homesteading. Well, I don't actually care what the definition is. If you are learning to provide for yourself and you want to be around other people who are similar in that and have those interests, then, try to come on out or come out to our gatherings. So there's so many events out here right now. This, the homesteading tsunami is what Joel Salatin calls it. He's got a book out by that title right now. So it's an amazing book. I just finished it. I'm actually doing a book club. Well, I'm participating in a book club for it, but I already read the book, so I couldn't wait. So Gretchen, hopefully you won't kick me out of the book club. I won't spoil anything. I like to read things more than once anyhow. But yeah, so the homesteading tsunami thing, it is remarkably just growing and picking up speed, and people are coming at it from all kinds of angles. Some people just want to know more about where their food comes from. Some people just want to be more engaged with the land and with, actual living. Some people have grown really tired of consumer culture. Some people have grown tired of feeling crowded. That was one of the reasons I wanted to leave the city. I just felt like I didn't have enough space. Like I couldn't really stretch out. So, let's get together and get to know each other better so we can have each other's back. And as I drop my notepad, that's everything I got on my list. And we're 32 minutes in, so not shabby. You guys holler at me if you need anything. If you want design assistance, if you want installation work, I do that in the East Tennessee area, strongrootsresources.com, or email me at strongrootsresources@gmail.com. I'd be happy to talk with you. I'm always happy to have a phone conversation before you hire me on for any kind of job. I always like to make sure that I'm going to be a good fit, that my services are a good fit for what you're trying to do. And until next time, y'all take it easy.